All right, so here we are. Now we're going to dive into looking at the employer's payroll taxes. So just like you as an employee must pay taxes such as federal, state, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare and Social Security, your employer must also, or your employer is also subject to payroll taxes, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about in this particular video, okay? All right, so employers are subject to payroll taxes, so such as FICA. So just like you must pay FICA, they must pay FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare. So they must match the employer's contribution. Okay, so if the employer is paying, if the employee is paying $600 in FICA, the employer is also matching that same amount. Okay. In addition, they must pay FUTA and SUTA. FUTA and SUTA is the federal unemployment compensation tax and also the state unemployment compensation tax. So this picture, which I took from your textbook, is a very good example of who's responsible for what. So as an employee, we are responsible for Social Security tax, Medicare tax, which is FICA. We also are responsible for federal and state income taxes, right? So we have the government, but you can also add in the state of California if you're here. And then as an employer or business, they are also subject to Social Security tax and Medicare in the exact amount that the employee pays. But in addition to that, they must pay federal unemployment, which is FUTA, and SUTA, which is the state unemployment tax, okay? So from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna dive into what does it look like for the employer to capture the employees' taxes and also to pay their own portion of taxes, okay? So you need to make sure that when you're recording these journal entries, you understand that, oh, this is what the employee is paying and this is what the employer is paying. But remember, the employer is collecting all of the taxes on the employee's behalf and their behalf and paying it out to the government, okay? So let's talk about recording payroll. Okay, so the following data from McDermott Supply for its payroll period ending March 21st is used. So here's our payroll for our salary, our sales salaries, which is 20,000. Our office salaries is 5,000, so that's a total of 25,000. And then it tells us that the salaries are subject to payroll taxes, 25,000 for Social Security and Medicare, and then 10,000 is subject to federal and state unemployment taxes. And then in this next section, they're giving us the payroll tax rates, and then next we have the employee deductions. And so under the employee deductions, some of these are voluntary deductions, such as retirement contributions and charitable contributions. And some of these are involuntary, meaning they don't have a choice, right? We all have to pay federal income tax and state income tax, okay? All right, so with that, now we're gonna look at it from the perspective of the corporation of how they are recording these taxes on the books, okay? All right. So here's our example of their payroll. The first one is payroll, their payroll expense, okay? How they're recording payroll. So the first two lines represent their payroll for the salaries, the sales salaries and the office salaries. And then they have all of the deductions they have. So you have Social Security, Medicare, their federal and income tax, the state, you have the retirement contribution, charitable, and then the last line is sales payable. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way that I have learned to capture this that makes it a little bit easier to be able to put this journal entry together, because otherwise it's going to feel very overwhelming to put this together, okay? So I'll show you exactly my format, okay? So give me a second and I'll do so. But lastly, I want to talk about payroll taxes. Now, payroll taxes is again what the employer, the business, is paying. So remember, Social Security tax and medical tax is exactly what they must match with the employee. So as you can tell in this bottom box is the Social Security tax is $1,500. So is the Social Security tax payable in the top portion. And then the medical tax, Medicare tax is $375, and so is the one at the very top. Remember, they must match the FICA. And then what the employer is also subject to is the SUTA and the FUTA, right? And so we get all of these rates again from the prior slide. And so I don't have a slide dedicated to payroll taxes, but I do have an example, okay? So just take a look at this formula or this format. And then what I'm gonna do is in the next, in the example to follow in the next video, I'm going to show you my tips and tricks on how I set up this payroll journal entry, or how I remember how to do it. And then I'll also show you how to do payroll taxes. Okay. So I'll see you guys.